Welcome back to another episode of the Risepreneur podcast. DISC, just like RISE, stands for Define, Invest, Share, and Exit. DISC is also an acronym. It stands for Dominance, Influence, Steadiness, and Conscientiousness. So before I'm going to dive in what each means, in business, we basically looking to, at some point, to delegate some of the work to teammates. So personally, when I look for someone, I will define the duties first, right? I don't find a person and then try to stick all these duties to that person for them to perform. It's the other way around. First, you define the duties, the functions that one needs to perform, and then you look for the individual. So if they already have an experience, it's a plus. In many cases, I don't care about the experience, and I look for the person with the right attitude and the right behavioral style. DISC assessment is all about behavioral style. You can observe someone's behavior and know exactly if they fit that profile. So if you extroverted and task-oriented, you more dominant. You all like goal-driven, you know what needs to be done, but you have very short fuse. You want things done fast, right? Don't dwell too much on details. Tell me the bottom line. I make decisions on bottom line stuff. Now, if you take that task orientation and go to the introverted side, you're going to get conscientious individual. Conscientious is more analytical. They're introverted, usually quiet, talk much slower because they're introverted. They process data, information. You got to give them a lot of data. You cannot rush these people. They will be frustrated because they cannot make mistakes. They cannot handle making mistakes. They're perfectionists, right? Now, if you go to introvertness, on another level where you bring it to people orientation, you're going to get steadiness. These people, you hear them say it's all about we. They always want to know how, because they worry always what everybody will think or how everyone will be impacted. They're always dwelling on peace, family, ideologies, values, where they want everybody to be happy, right? Very great for customer service. They're nurturing, patient, they talk slower, they love to listen. Now, if you go to the extroverted side of that, you're going to get influential person, somebody who's bubbly, talks fast, excited, hands up there. They're usually great at sales. They're really good at brainstorming because they're more on the creative side and extroverted. They talk really fast and they go off topic a lot. So we are a blend of those four. Usually you have one dominant versus, and then you have a secondary behavior, right? So for example, let's say you can be extroverted, task-oriented. That's your primary, you dominant. Most entrepreneurs fall into that group. But now if they lean more towards people orientation, so they would become dominant influence. So they push their dominance and go get it through extrovertness, fun, influential. Through speech, they basically try to get to their destination. If they lean more towards conscientiousness, they totally task-oriented. They might come across too awkward, too cruel, too blunt. To them, it's all about the mission, bottom line. They're visionaries and at the same time also understand the detailed. Perfectionists, right? So now, if somebody who is conscientious and will be leaning more towards steadiness, they basically gonna go into perfectionist, following laws, rules, make sure that everything done right. But at the same time, they're gonna be supportive because the secondary is S. Right? So, and then again, if you take steadiness and you lean them towards I, it would be also people-oriented. They nurturing, but then they basically going in through fun. They basically find a way to support you and keep things steady. So when we create duties for a job, we want to understand what type of personality I'm going to need. When I describe the behavioral style for somebody who's dealing with numbers, I would want somebody who's analytical and maybe a little bit supportive. But primary driver should be analytical. If I want them to go and communicate these numbers and go more towards leadership, decision making, I would want them to lean towards dominance, right? So there would be CFO or somebody eventually at that level. If I want somebody for sales position, I'm not going to go with that individual because that's going to be torture for that person. You cannot tell somebody who's introverted, task-oriented, hey, there's an event where all the entrepreneurs get together. Why don't you go out and mingle and see if you can get some business cards, make some relationships. They're going to go there, they're going to sit in the corner and wait until somebody approaches them. They're not going to be initiating conversations. So you're basically setting up a person for a failure when you're not leveraging their strength, you're leveraging their weakness to perform certain functions. So DISC is extremely, extremely important. Everything we do, we observe the behavioral styles. I want to leverage someone's strength before I would expose and tell them about their duties, right? So I know you're good at this. You would be a great fit for this, and then let's develop you from there. Of course, there's a lot of other things that come into play. The value system, you got to be aligned on that. Your intellect, your soft skills, and others. But the DISC is something that you can observe, and it's not so complicated. Of course, you can go deeper into DISC. You can see how people dress, how people talk, how people. What people drive. You can basically construct in your mind if that the individual during the interview, during the interaction, you can already know if that person would be the right candidate for the job or not, right? So to know more, of course, you can always go to Risepreneur. We have a link for you to go take that assessment. We encourage you to have all of your teammates take those DISC assessments so you can know who has what type of style. It's neither right, neither wrong. Just understanding what the style is makes it easier for you to communicate with them and be less judgmental of the expectations that you have for the position. There's natural state and adapted state. Of course, when you go and take that assessment, there's once you get your report, you see both of this adapted and natural states. And there's also if you're at work, and bringing people to work for you, always look at adapted state. Do not look at natural so much, because people behave in adapted manner when they're outside of their household where they're in total comfort, right? So at work, people not necessarily themselves.